Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. It's June 5th, 2022, around 11 a.m., 11:15 a.m. to be precise. And I'm speaking to you from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. Again, I do this every video. I'm a 30 plus year Vedic astrologer. I've managed to speak and survive in this field for about 32 years now. And excuse me, I have been published in Mountain Astrologer. I've served as the president of the Council of Vedic Astrology and the vice president of the Council of Vedic Astrology. I'm currently teaching at Kepler College and at the American College of Vedic Astrology, and also at Dower Academy. For those of you interested in checking those out, I have started my own school. I have had individual students, individual learners work with me one-on-one, and I've had a lot of success with them. A lot of my students do really well on the Council of Vedic Astrology examinations. And I also have been a priest of the Temple of Kriya Yoga since 1995. Been a Reiki master shortly before that. I'm sorry, been a Reiki practitioner shortly before that, Reiki master shortly after that. And also I have been a tarot reader. I know a lot about gems and crystals. I also know a lot about remedial measures in Vedic astrology. And I also hold bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees in various subjects, all different subjects. So variety is the spice of life, and I firmly believe in that. It could indicate a lack of focus on my part, but actually it's curiosity. I'm very curious about everything. So astrology is one of those things that very interested in economics and how economies are going. Very interested in politics, very interested in people overall. I also do readings. I've been doing readings for roughly 30 years. I spoke at my first conference in 1996. And I've spoken about Jyotish in front of groups and also as an online and in-person teacher since 1995, roughly. So so I've got a good background. I'd like to expand this particular activity to get better backdrops, and also to form a better presentation. I like this presentation, but I realize it's not the highest definition we can get, and I realize it's not. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult for people to follow along, and I'm enabling auto transcription, so I enable it from this screen, and also when I post this on YouTube. I work with Greater New Bedford Public Television since around 2018, I think it was, to put this on the air at Greater New Bedford Cable TV. I'm very grateful to them for their support. I will have better facilities within about a month to 2 months. Okay, so I've been promising that for a while, but it is coming. I also have a book that's finally being compiled and should be out, I'm thinking, by the fall, I hope. And I'm also hoping to add additional channels because I'm really interested in music, art, religion, spirituality. I'd like to expand to do more on YouTube and in other circles. So this won't be, I'll have a lot more time to do that after June 30th this year. So in the while, please like the page, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, if somebody's forwarded this to you. Number one, I appreciate you looking at this page or at this site. I appreciate you tuning in. But if I can, and I'm up to over 400 subscribers. I'd like to make 1,000 subscribers by the fall, if it's at all possible, so then I can monetize the site, and that will make things a little bit easier for me. But even if I don't monetize, I'll keep on doing this, and we're going to keep on providing this information to you, just because we love you. So, without further ado, let's look at the chart. But also, if you'd like to contact me, well, most important thing, if you'd like to contact me for readings or for any kind of services, I'm also a priest, so I can also do marriages and baptisms and things like that. If you'd like to contact me about any of my services, please do. I can teach you some things, because I have backgrounds in other disciplines too. So it's so it's not just Jyotish. I'm sort of an all-arounder, and I can help you, I think, in a variety of ways. So depending on what your situation is, some things will be beyond my control, some things are within your control, and I'll tell you what those things are if you contact me. Okay. But as I was saying to a class yesterday, astrology is not intended to, it's intended to give guidance. It's intended to give, and one of the things that I love about Indian astrology is there's an entire lexicon or entire set of remedial measures that you can engage in to strengthen the chart, to help modify the karma, and also keep something in mind when something happens to you astrologically. How you react is a large part of correcting the situation. So let's say if you get a disappointment, you don't just say, well, I'll never be able to do that. You say to yourself, well, I'll try harder, or I'll try again, because persistence overcomes resistance, right? So, and failures can actually be blessings. They can actually, number one, push you in a different direction, or number two, identify what problems you may be having and ways to overcome those problems. So everything is a learning experience. No effort is ever completely forgotten or worthless. It's just part of the path. It's part of why we're here. And if you change your attitude, you can change your life, basically. Okay. So let's go to the chart now. That's enough of the preaching. And let's see what's up for the chart. So I drew a chart before I started. And since Saturn just turned retrograde, and since I started this conversation when Saturn was aspecting the first house, I'm going to make doubly sure that we pull up the program and that it stays up. Because sometimes the first time it doesn't take, and I'm going to do it 3 times just for good measure. Okay, so let's do this. And let's do the layout example. Now, the major thing to look at in this chart is to look at the rising sign. And actually, it's kind of interesting because the rising sign is in Leo, and Leo is going to be about the government, which I've spoken about a lot before. and also about the government, um, the government's frustration, because the Lord of the first house, which has to do with the nakshatra, that the rising sign is in, is Magha nakshatra, which is about our ancestors or our predecessors, right? And so this chart, oh, I'm sorry, this is slipping now. This chart is, I'm gonna load this page again just to make sure. Gonna stop the share and start the share again. Okay, so this chart, and I'm gonna do this a few times, just because I want to make sure we have the chart on the screen. Sorry for this obsessive compulsive behavior, but all right. So this chart has the sun in the 10th house, so there's a lot of focus on the government. The government rules, the sun rules the first house in the chart. Saturn's in the 7th house, so this indicates there's distress to a lot of people, and a lot of people feel like we're actually going backwards, which is relatively consistent with what I've seen in the news. Venus and Rahu are in the 9th house, which is also a house of government. So there's a lot of unhappiness with governments. And again, this isn't just the United States, this is around the world. And we have this combination, this concern over the economy, this worry over the economy, because Venus usually rules economic matters along with Mercury. Saturn rules want or lack of items, and Sun is the government's response and how the government is communicating to people. So over the past few weeks, Mercury has been retrograde. So there have been a lot of problems with communications from both the media and from the government. So essentially what happens when you have combinations like this is there'll be a lot of miscommunications, a lot of scrambled communications, a lot of frustration, especially because of the Venus-Rahu conjunction right here, okay? And that'll last for at least another couple of weeks before Venus goes into Taurus, which is its own sign. Now, again, keep in mind, this is Indian astrology. All the signs are pushed back nearly one whole sign. So you may be saying to yourself, well, the sun's in Gemini right now, Gary, why are you talking about this? In Indian astrology, the sun is still squarely in Taurus and will be there for another 10 days or so. Around the 15th of the month, that's when the sun goes to the next sign, which is Gemini. And so a lot of the emphasis is on financial matters because Taurus is a financial sign. Moon is in the 12th house. There's a large feeling that among the public that they're helpless to do anything. And also that the government messaging from a lot of governments is that they're helpless to do anything. Mars is aspecting 1, 2, 3, 4, the 11th house of gains, and also the 2nd house of money. So there's anger about money. There's anger about what? Saturn's aspecting the 1st house, and also Venus, and also Libra. Now Saturn's going to, Saturn just went retrograde. So what you'll see over the next couple of months is Saturn's moving backwards into this sign. We have a Jupiter-Mars conjunction. We'll talk about that in a second. But Saturn's moving back into the sign. And you'll see what I would call an economic recovery when Saturn goes into Capricorn, because people who have money will be more reassured. It won't necessarily translate to you as a working person, but people who have money, they'll be a little bit more confident in their investments. until probably around January of next year. Then you'll start to see investments get a little bit shaky. So a lot of people who were like extraordinarily worried about cryptocurrency or extraordinarily worried about risky investments, they should still worry, but a lot of the panic will be gone in a couple of weeks. And essentially, about the next 6 months, there'll be a little bit more security, a little bit more stability, a little bit more feeling of being in control. You'll also see a lot of emphasis. So, because Saturn's going backwards right now, there's a lot less focus on female rights, a lot less focus on rights of uh, minority groups or groups underrepresented in society. That's probably a more correct term. And you'll also see that come back into full swing between July 2nd and January of 2023, because Saturn will go back into Capricorn. You'll see a lot of attention being paid to, and maybe even some anger or possible unrest in the streets this summer, because Saturn will be aspecting Mars. Things will seem not to be very perfect. And the Jupiter-Mars conjunction also, by the way, is causing concern about COVID coming back, or concern about new diseases or novel diseases like monkeypox. Monkeypox is spreading relatively rapidly, but it's spreading in the highly populated states. So it's spreading in, I think, in California, Washington, Massachusetts, where I am, is where the first case, I think, was reported in the United States. And I'm nowhere near that. I'm about an hour away from that first case. And it's a little bit tougher to catch than COVID, a lot tougher to catch than COVID, from what I understand. So I'm not an expert on it, but it'll be a scare because of that Venus Rahu conjunction. But I don't think it'll be a serious problem for us. And again, it's spread more by bodily fluids than it is by air, although it can be transmitted by air, from what I understand. But that will also have the government overreaching a little bit, the government communicating a little bit, and also some panic among news agencies. But I think you're actually going to see the news agencies calm down just a little bit, especially after Venus goes into Taurus. There'll be better economic news. Inflation will continue, though. That's not going to go away. And that's mainly a Jupiter phenomenon. So Jupiter is very strong right now. Rahu's in Aries, Ketu's and Saturn will slow down inflation a little bit come July, but it'll still advance relatively rapidly. So that's a problem for a lot of places in the world. There are no eclipses really for a good few months, so we're free of those. But right now, Venus is passing over one of the eclipse points right now, so you're seeing a lot of things happen that are connected with women's rights and with commercial activity, and you'll see that under hard focus over the next couple of weeks, because Venus is essentially hitting the point. Venus over the next 3 to 4 weeks will be hitting points which were sensitive along the eclipse lines. Mercury is hitting it as well right now. Mercury's hitting one of the eclipse points, the lunar eclipse. But right now, Venus is close to where the solar eclipse occurred. And I think one of the things you'll see is that, number one, people, a lot of trade. There'll be a lot of anger about trade, a lot of problems with trade. And countries like China, because it was born October 1st, countries like China's economy will still tend to be slow over the next year and a half. The other thing is, and the United States will tend to be, it'll keep on adding jobs. That's okay, but the problem with Saturn moving back into Capricorn is you'll see a cessation of hiring. So even though the stock market um, is not um, is going to improve, the economy itself will not improve over the next few months. Okay, so let me go out of this. So now somebody trying to contact me. Hold on. Just 1 second. I need to do something here. Okay, so we're back. And see if I can get the screen up. I'm very sorry, folks. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this and start sharing it again. So let's see. And as I said many times before, the war in Ukraine is probably not going to be resolved really until early next year. COVID will linger as a concern, I think, until the end of the summer. Then it'll be so there will be waves of the illness, but they won't be as serious as previous waves. And essentially, it'll become very much very much like something that's part of our mainstream disease network. The vaccinations will probably stay in place. I think there is a monkeypox vaccination. There'll probably be encouragement to do that, and Center for Disease Control is predicting another COVID outbreak. I think they're panicking from this combination right here. I mean, it certainly is possible, but I do think they're panicking. And after about a month or so, you'll start to see a lot of that tend to dissipate a great deal. But again, we are going to have challenges with diseases over the next few years. How much is true? I don't think it's going to be quite as serious as COVID was. But Rahu does cause, the United States is in a Rahu Mahadasha. Rahu does cause panics. And the media is going to be very, very active during this entire major planetary period, especially for the United States. Now let's look at the map of the world and see what's going on there. Okay, so Saturn, Sun, and Mercury are right over the Hawaiian Islands. So is Rahu. Rahu is really close by, so that will cause panic in the Hawaiian Islands. I'm not sure about what. It looks like being an island chain, they're definitely hit by inflation. So is Alaska. Um, Jupiter and Mars are hitting. So the inflation rate in California is going to be very high as well because Jupiter is going over. But there may be fights or outbreaks um, in Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, even up into places like Montana and Idaho over prices. Venus is over Michigan, down as far south as looks like Mississippi to me, and also Georgia. So this Venus line will give new fear about uh, people coming into the country, also about business overall, business panics, business strife. And the moon, Rahu moon, is going over Washington, D.C., so there'll be new concern about scandals. You're going to see a lot of the exploration of the January 6th incident. I'm not calling it an insurrection. I'm not calling it a riot. I'm just calling it an incident now. And the news media will be covering it voraciously over here. Now, as we go down to Cuba, and also Venus, so some panic, especially around Nicaragua and down into Panama, and kind of touching into Peru as well. Now, Rahu is also going down into Colombia and into Peru as well. So there'll be some problems connected with women down there, and also to Chile. Argentina has Mercury going down, so we're going to hear a lot of news about Argentina, Venezuela, and also poor Brazil and Guyana are really, they're kind of in trouble right now. This entire section of South America down through Uruguay and Paraguay um, is really in trouble economically. So really from Guyana all the way down to pretty much Rio de Janeiro, and the government has been a little bit harsh there. There's a Mars Jupiter line close to the Azores and close to the Canary Islands and Madeira down here. So I think one of the things is Portugal's the islands associated with Portugal and also Iceland are probably going to be due for some volcanic activity, some disease outbreaks too. England, Spain, and France are actually fairly free of this right now, so that's interesting. So they're just going to be dealing with economic problems, that the rest of the world is having, supply chain problems. Some fear of disease spreading, but not as much as before. And Moon is over here in Greece, Eastern Europe. So the economy in those parts of the world is going to be attacked. Also through Italy, you have this Venus line going through Italy. There'll be scandals around women and priests, it looks like, going through this line. Also through North Africa, especially in Algeria, and down into tiny Gabon, Central African Republic, it looks like. And Venus lines are just really, really strong in Eastern Europe and Finland. So you'll actually see some scandals connected with public life in Eastern Europe, Poland, all the way down through South Africa. And there's a Rahu line. Central Africa looks like it's really in bad shape right now. And that's not and this is also, and something I forgot to mention, food is starting to become a concern. I should have mentioned it before, but essentially with the sun in the 10th house, sun rules wheat in Indian astrology. That's going to be like a focal point for people around the world. I forgot to mention that. I apologize. And essentially, these two lines going through right here, the Rahu and Moon line, it'll also start to become a little bit of a problem in Turkey and Syria and all the way into Russia. And there'll be deprivation. And so Africa is going to be slammed. We'll hear a lot about problems with food in Africa, but it also looks like there are problems even in places like Hawaii. The other thing that was and also Iran, all through what I like to call the Stan republics, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. Those are all going to have major food problems, and let's see now, Turkmenistan as well, and even into Russia itself. Excuse me. Some food shortages. China is not going to be suffering from food shortages. One thing I did want to mention is last week I mentioned that that there were going to be problems in Bangladesh, and there are major fires there right now. They're trying to put them under control. So I just did want to go on record as mentioning that. And let's see, this gives us the map a little bit more in a little bit more detail. But this entire region, this entire set of regions, is going to have food problems. So all the way from Mozambique, all the way up through Mozambique, South Africa, all the way up through Russia, pretty much Russia and Ukraine. And there's a Venus line running through, looks like Myanmar and close to India, close to oh God, can't really close to Laos and Indonesia. You'll see some food shortages, and also in some panic, some revolts, maybe even in China. We're probably not going to hear about them in China and Vietnam. We're probably not going to hear about them. And Mercury lines going over China. We will hear about China's production. Some issues with Taiwan. And Saturn lines are running through Korea, so Korea is going to have some financial and economic problems as well. So nobody really seems to, Borneo and the Philippines as well. So nobody really seems to escape from this. About the only place that's not really strongly touched is Japan. And if we go up here, let's see if Australia. Even Australia is a little touched by this. By some of the financial concerns and by governmental concerns. And if we go over to, there'll be a lot of media coverage on the west coast of Australia, but not as much in the center. But Australia is going to have quote unquote disease outbreaks in eastern Australia. And let's see if that goes into New Zealand. Looks like it's pretty much left alone, so that's okay. So the areas I look out for especially in terms of political issues, would probably be um, central United States, especially around uh, um, Michigan, Hawaii. I'd also look for gonna get out of the screen. I'd also look for some issues around China, Turkey, all the way up through that central corridor of Asia, Saudi Arabia through Africa. So there are a lot of potential shortages coming, or fear of shortages coming, because of the Saturn Venus aspect in the chart. So at least from this particular chart, I think it'll be interesting. If I look at the Navamsha, which I very rarely do in these charts, but the Navamsha has Sun in the 12th house. Let me see if I have this right. I don't have this chart right. You know, it's not right. New Bedford. This kind of got kicked out. That's definitely wrong. Second. So in the Navamsha chart, the Sun is in the 3rd house. Mars, Lord of the 12th, is in the 7th. So there will be riots or fighting or panic over food over the next few weeks. Saturn, Jupiter is, so there are still trade restrictions. It'll be a kind of a tough month overall, kind of a tough week. So let me go ahead and look at your individual signs. But again, there are always opportunities to be brought up from these kinds of events. Saturn entering Capricorn will actually bring some more control, or some less chaotic times coming ahead after July 2nd. But again, one of the things we trade off with those less chaotic times is more government mandates, less freedom, more control, and again, not a lot of happiness with that. It seems like, at least from this Venus Rahu conjunction, which I'm focusing on a great deal, I know I am, this Venus Rahu conjunction is forcing some change in governments around the world. It's forcing them to loosen up a little bit, but it's slow. Saturn's aspecting Venus, it really can't do that much. After Venus enters Taurus, you'll actually see more effective government action. You'll actually see better rainfall. A lot of places have been experiencing droughts and better crops coming about. But the conflict, this Mars-Jupiter conjunction, the war will actually tend to tone down a bit, actually, after Mars goes into Aries, believe it or not. But yeah, it'll also get a little bit more frightening, because people will be afraid about nuclear activity, which will not happen. Okay, so let's go to your individual charts. Venus and Rahu are in the 1st house for Aries. For Aries, this means a good week. Focus on relationship life, a lot of focus on a lot of passion, a lot of interest in sex for the sign. But Sun and Mercury in the 2nd house is it's frustrated sexually, but it's more interested in money and more interested in keeping the peace at home. Jupiter's aspect in the moon, a good time for these folks to write. And K2's in the 7th house, so relationship partners will seem to be a little cranky or difficult to get along with. Saturn's in the 11th house, going to the 10th house, so their work life will actually improve. They'll actually get more work. This past these past couple of weeks, work has slowed down to a certain extent because whenever Saturn goes backwards, people start to get a little bit less ambitious. For Taurus, Taurus has Sun and Mercury in the first house. Venus and Rahu are in the 12th house. So again, there's that strong frustration about sleep, about sex, those kinds of things. But Jupiter and Mars are in the 11th house. So financially, this sign will do actually do pretty well. It'll have a lot of focus on home life. Changeable desires. The moon is in third house. This sign will want to change its focus in life. And K2's in the 6th, so we'll still have to watch out for disease. Saturn's in the 10th, about to approach the 9th house, so you'll have bosses who will be very difficult to work with over the next week or so, and definitely going into the next month. Now for Gemini, Gemini has, again, Mercury's in the 12th house, so it's going to feel like it's not really getting what it needs to get. It'll feel like it's under attack. There are some threats on this sign right now. Those will go away within about a month or so. And, there'll actually be fear of physical injury for this sign, to be truthful. But that'll go away within about a month or so. And also Mercury and Sun being in the 12th house, this sign will become a little bit more reflective, a little bit more concerned with being famous, but not quite as concerned with money. K2's in the 5th house. Unexpected romantic interests, unexpected or surprising relationship opportunities. But there'll also be a little bit of disenchantment with romantic life. There'll be more interest in fame. 7th house Lord is in the 10th house. Relationship partners will actually seem to do well, but they'll be a little bit angry or aggravated. Saturn's in the 9th house, very good for career advancement. It'll be going into the 8th house, so that will tend to make the sign more research oriented or more investment oriented. For Cancer, Cancer is right now experiencing relatively good career advancement right now, some fame and some recognition, some financial gain, and also, but again, some worry about whether or not it can maintain its financial status or maintain its luck. But this particular sign will be lucky throughout the summer months, especially career-wise. Relationship-wise, so we'll go back. There's been some relief for this sign relationship-wise over the past few months, but a lot of the frustration in relationship will come back starting July 2nd, but the next month will be okay. And career-wise, there'll be a lot of fame or a lot of recognition. The sign will try to be very, very dominant over the next few months, over the next few weeks. It'll focus a lot on promoting itself. For Leo, Leo has Saturn in the 7th house right now. It's about to go back to the 6th house, so that's better for Leo. It'll make this sign less aggravated, less feeling less hopeless, and at least for this sign, within about a month, it'll start to show some real career success and some real career activity. But relationship-wise, it hasn't been experiencing the best luck, and I think you'll start to see this particular sign, maybe even think about getting out of relationships or trying to terminate relationships. For Virgo, Virgo has its Lord in the 9th house, which is very good for it career-wise. You'll start to see this sign improving a lot career-wise over the next month or so, and you'll start to see it get a lot of speaking opportunities and a lot of opportunities for advancement. K2 is in the second house. So again, sometimes it'll be ignored when it's speaking. Home life will seem kind of tough, but K2 is a relatively um, benevolent planet. It's very good for psychic connections. It's very good for sensing when people are angry and after Venus changes signs in about 2 weeks, you'll start to see this particular sign pick up and start to produce better results for you. For Mars is in the seventh house along with Jupiter, a lot of fights for relationship partners. Again, that'll continue for about a month. Saturn is in the sixth house, so health issues will actually start to go away. But relationship life will feel a little bit stymied or a little bit contracted after July 2nd. For Libra, career-wise, it looks like it's doing well, though. Okay, the sign looks like it's doing well. For Libra, Ketu's in the first house, Rahu's in the seventh house. Usually this causes a strong desire to begin other relationships or maybe even to cheat on relationship partners. It's really kind of a complicated situation for Libras because Libras tend to attract a lot of attention, but they're also pretty much ignored if Ketu's in the first house. So they'll experience some frustration. And there'll be some desire to get together with somebody else, if only to get validation. But career life looks good for them. It looks like changing career in this sign is indicated, excuse me, and changeable career is indicated. Some new career activities are coming up within about a week. And you'll also see a lot of activity connected with advising or talking with people, giving financial gains. Now, Saturn's moving from the fifth house to the fourth house. So again, there'll be a lot more focus on work in the home. And Saturn's so less sleepiness, less tiredness. Jupiter's in the sixth house. So again, they have to watch out for illness. Mercury and Sun are in the eighth house. So not a lot of gain, but sudden unexpected financial gains. Okay. For Scorpio, Scorpio has Sun and Mercury in the seventh house. This will usually put a lot of focus on relationship life, but nobody's really going to have a good relationship life for at least another couple of weeks. So this particular sign will feel very frustrated relationship-wise, just in general. Saturn's is in the fourth house right now. So again, there's delays or obstructions in terms of home life, but that'll pass, that'll go away, and this sign will develop a great deal of courage over the next few weeks. Mars is in the fifth house. There'll be some arguments or disappointments with children, and some arguments or disappointments with friends. Venus and Rahu are in the sixth house, so there'll be some worry or some concern about poisons or getting sick. Seventh house relationship partners will seem to be difficult or bossy. Moon is in the ninth house. That actually indicates good change of luck and good career activity. For Sagittarius, Saturn's in the third spot. Let's go back into the second house. So you'll start to see money start to dry up a little bit for the sign that's been present for this sign. Mars is in the fourth house. It will give some relationship problems overall, but not really bad ones. And Venus and Rahu are in the fifth house. So again, you'll have to watch out for romantic involvements. They'll be more appealing than they would normally be. So there's a strong potential for love affairs. But again, I would get involved with one right now. Sun and Mercury are in the sixth house, so that's not a bad placement, but luck will seem to be very hard won, and relationship partners will seem to be very difficult. Moon is in the eighth house in its own sign, so there's a lot of research and a lot of inner reflection. Who's in the 11th house, so it'll be unusual or interesting friends entering your life. Capricorn is basically Saturn's on the cusp between Capricorn and Aquarius. So Saturn in Aquarius tends to give some money, but it makes it hard to work. And if Saturn's in Capricorn, it will put that sign back in control again. Okay, so people with stronger business inclinations or stronger financial inclinations will tend to be more more in command by the end of the week, or by early July. My apologies. Mars is in the third house, so this sign doesn't have any problems expressing itself. Venus and Rahu are in the fourth house, so again, that indicates some unhappiness or some dissatisfaction with home life. Sun and Venus are in the fifth house, a lot of focus on children and creativity. And also this will enhance this sign's luck. It'll give a lot of financial growth to Capricorn. For Aquarius, Saturn's in the first house for Aquarius. This usually means more work for Aquarius. Jupiter, Mars in the second house. There'll be arguments over finances or financial growth. Venus and Rahu are in the third house, so there's a lot of ambition on the part of the sign to be involved with in additional relationships or outside relationships. You should fight those tendencies because they will be very tough. And Mercury and Sun are in the fourth house, which gives a lot of attention to home life and also to relationship partners. Cage, who's in the ninth, boss will be very difficult to please no matter what you do. But career life does look good for the sign. This is a good Dana Yoga or wealth-producing combination for this sign. Finally, for Pisces, Pisces has a lot of control, a lot of command. Again, this is a Dana Yoga. Pisces will be doing very well financially this month. It won't feel like it's enough, but it'll be doing very well financially this month. And moves in the fifth, so again, there's a lot of focus on kids. K2 is in the eighth, so again, there'll be a lot of interest in occult or metaphysical subjects. Also, Libra and Pisces will be extremely intuitive over the next few months, over the next year or so, based upon K2 being where it is. And finally, career-wise, this sign will do very well, and I think you'll see a lot of financial growth for this sign. Saturn's in the 12th. It'll still be spent on friends, but not in a bad way. Okay, so that's it for this week. I gotta run. It's been a pleasure as always, and I love you all, and God bless you, and stay safe, and namaste. I'm always here for you. 508-525-0001 is my number. Thank you, and good night or good day.